I'm standing in court for my final court date. The judge sentenced me, slammed the gavel down, the bailiffs cuffed me, and then they carried me off to prison. And that was the end of my freedom for 2 years.
Bring some weed, I got a story to tell.
From prison to prison, jail to jail, 2 years straight, nigga just survived off Mel, you know.
My life, my life, my life, my life, my life. Ain't no justice, just us.
Peace, everyone. What the deal is? I want to welcome you to the first installment of No Justice, Just Us, No Correction and Correctional Facilities, which is my video series chronologically sharing my personal journey through the New York State prison system. Before we get started, I need you to smash that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on TikTok and Instagram, and then share this video. Now let's go. The date is Tuesday, February 12th, 2019 in Buffalo, New York. I'm standing in court for my final court date. The judge sentenced me to 2 years in prison and 3 years parole. I look back to the two ladies who were in court with me as to signify my final goodbye. The judge slammed the gavel down, the bailiffs cuffed me, and then they carried me off to prison. And that was the end of my freedom for 2 years. So let me give you a frame of reference for the rest of this story. At the time, I'm 40 years old. I'm not in a gang. I'm not selling drugs. I'm not in the streets like that. I'm an entrepreneur getting legal money. I have a house, a car, a girlfriend, and children. And this is my first time in prison. So I'm in the Buffalo courthouse, this building right here. And directly across the street is the Erie County Holding Center. And they have to transfer me from the courthouse to the Erie County Holding Center. People in Buffalo recognize both of these buildings, and most of y'all know there's an underground tunnel that connects those two buildings. So they walked me all the way downstairs through a tunnel from the Buffalo courthouse across the street to the Erie County Holding Center. At this point, I'm not even scared. My mind is still processing what's happening. So I'm actually just trying to live in the moment and actually process what's going on and what's about to happen. So once we get to the point where we are through the tunnel and we are now in the holding center, they take me up to the point where I have to strip. And this is like any prison you go into, this is one of the most embarrassing and degrading parts of it. You have to strip asshole naked. So now I'm just butt naked in front of two COs. They tell me to run my fingers through my hair. I don't have any hair, so in my case, I had to run my fingers through my beard. Then they tell you, open your mouth, stick out your tongue, pull your top lip up, pull your bottom lip down. Then you got to turn around. They tell you, bend over and spread them. Then you have to cough. They want to make sure that you haven't boofed any contraband. For those of you that don't know, boofing is hiding contraband in your anus or tucking it tightly in your butt cheeks. During that process, they'll give you some boxers, some tube socks, the traditional orange jumpsuit, and some flip-flops. Next, they sent me right off to Essentials. Now, Essentials is where you get your pillow, your blankets, your toothbrush, your soap, your toothpaste, and things of that nature. Next, I was taken to the typical 6x9x12 cell with the bars. So now I'm just sitting in there, just regretting this whole situation. The only good part about it is there's a TV in the hallway where you can see, you can hear it, and that's your entertainment, just to kind of a little bit of escapism. Here's a picture of what it actually looks like on the inside. So I'm not clear how long I was in that cell for, but eventually they found a spot for me and they moved me to the pods. Now, the pods are like a big dormitory. There's a first floor and a second floor, and each pod has anywhere from 2 to 6 beds. So like I said, now I'm in the pods where you can move about the cabin freely. You can walk around and all that. I'm not in the cell with the bars. It's more like a dormitory style. so you can walk around. And as I previously stated, I'm not associated with a gang, with a neighborhood, or a religion. So basically, I'm in there by myself. And I know this, so I have to move carefully. I had realized at that point, it was very important for me to watch and listen to everything, but hear and see nothing. Those who get it, get it. So basically, you have to watch your surroundings. You have to be aware of what's going on at all times, because you never know if somebody's plotting on you or someone else that you're near. And like I said, you can get pulled into someone else's mess easily. Same thing, you have to listen so you can know what's going on. You hear somebody plotting on you or plotting on somebody else, but I said hear and see nothing. If somebody asks you, hey, did such and such tell you, or did you hear such and such say this? Oh, like, nah, man, I wasn't paying attention, or no, I was watching TV, or no, I didn't hear it. Just stay out of it. Mind your business. Like I said before, I wasn't associated with a gang or a certain neighborhood necessarily. I never claimed to be no gangster, but I'm definitely not no sucker. So at this point, I'm just watching how people move, because I need to get acclimated to this particular prison and how they move here. You got to learn the do's and don'ts. So always keep your ears and your eyes open. Before we get started, I need you to smash that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on TikTok and Instagram, and then share this video. Now let's go. So I'm sitting out in the common area at one of like picnic style benches watching TV. I get really, really thirsty. Now, rewind a little bit. To this point, I've only had the jail lunches, which are like the free school lunches from back in the day. They give you like a sandwich, a milk, a cookie, and a juice. Right before I got arrested, I was at a very pivotal point in my health and fitness journey where I was cleaning up my diet. I was learning a lot. So I wasn't eating certain things. Like I had cut out dairy, I had cut out meat. It's very difficult for me in there because they give you bologna sandwiches. I had stopped eating pork many years before that. And at this point, I wasn't even eating any meat. So I wasn't eating the sandwiches. I don't drink milk. I don't eat dairy. So I'm not having the cheese or the meat on the sandwich. I'm not drinking the milks. I would eat the cookie and drink the juice. But your body needs water to survive. And those juices are a lot of sugar and dyes or whatever is in it. So I'm just surviving off those. So at this point, like I said, I'm sitting and I'm super thirsty. I had fought it already for a couple of days. I was like, I'm not going to drink the water. They have water fountains in there. But at this point, like I said, I will go to a place in Buffalo called Feel Right, and I will get alkaline water from Feel Right. Those in Buffalo know what that is. It's a health food spot where you can go take bottles and fill them up. They have a reverse osmosis machine where it purifies the water, and they run it over a mineral stick, which makes it alkaline. And I was drinking that water. So now I'm in prison. I wasn't drinking any water at all, but my body was letting me know it's time. For a couple of days, I hadn't drank any water. I'm super thirsty, and I'm just looking at the water fountain like, all right, I have to do it. My body is telling me it's time. So I'm going to just go over there, take a couple sips, and just get enough in me to maintain me. I go over to the water fountain. I start drinking it. This was the most disgusting City Punch. That's what I call tap water, City Punch. It was the most disgusting taste ever. It was warm. It wasn't even like room temperature warm. It was just like really warm. It was gross. It was like gritty, like you could almost taste the particles from the pipes, the old pipes and stuff. It was disgusting. It was like one of those things that I will never forget. I can't even put into words how disgusting it was. And it's so different from the City Punch that you will get in your home. Like even that I didn't drink, but this was even worse. So after the City Punch incident, I go back just watching TV for a little while. Just being in there, I felt dirty. Like the place is moldy, dusty, dirty, damp, just gross. And I hadn't taken a shower in a day or so since before I had turned myself in. At this point, I'm like, all right, well, I got to take a shower. I have remembered hearing stories and seeing things on TV about the showers and all of that. So I was a little paranoid. I'm like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. So I just peeped the scene. Now in the pods, there are individual showers. It's a little room which you can go in and close the door and take the shower, which was a big relief for me. I wasn't with the general population shower. Like, I didn't want to shower with other people. So at this point, that was one of the first things that I had a little sigh of relief on. I had got my stuff. You just got to wait your turns. Somebody's in there, you got to obviously wait and then ask, like, hey, if somebody's around, like, you got next? They say, nah, you can go in there and get your shower. You want to show respect and you'll get respect. Finally got to, go in there, shower, and that made me feel a little bit better. It was a big relief that it wasn't like a general shower with like a big open shower where a bunch of guys were in there. So that was a relief for me. I wasn't in the Buffalo Holding Center very long. So before I got to know anyone or get adjusted, I was transferred to Alden, the next stop on my tour. This was my first time being transferred to a different facility, and the process was grueling and just degrading. First, you have to pack up all your belongings. They take you to a different part of the prison where you have to get strip searched, which is super embarrassing and it's disgusting. Next, after you have all your belongings packed up and you've been strip searched and you got your clothes back on, they have to cuff and shackle you. So they handcuff you with the regular cuffs in front of you. They'll shackle your feet together, or they'll shackle your foot to another inmate. There's also a chain that runs from around your waist, which your hands are hooked to, so you can't move your hands too far from your waist. You can't put your hands up like this or out like that because they're stuck to your waist like this. Then they put you on a bus and you don't know where you're going, how long it's gonna take, and it's the most uncomfortable bus ride you're ever gonna have. You're on a bus full of people you don't know, shackled and cuffed. The seats are hard, it smells, terrible experience. But off to the new prison. Let's see what they have in store for me there. So the first episode was just covering my brief stint in the Buffalo Holding Center in downtown Buffalo. So in this episode, is when I get transferred to Alden, which is all the way down Walden Street in Buffalo, New York. So let's get into it. Now, I don't really remember much about being transported from the Holding Center to Alden, but I do remember two very important things. The first thing is I remember feeling like a slave, feeling like human chattel, which you really are. Because the way that they shackle you and cuff you is very slave-like. If you look at any movies, pictures, books with slaves with chains, you're that. That's how it feels. I can't even really put into words how so many emotions I was feeling. I was feeling disrespected. I was feeling sad. They try to make you feel less than a man. I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase, God names his children and the devil numbers his. And that's exactly what happens when you get in the system. What they do is they strip you of your name and they give you a number, a DIN number. And mine was 19B0480. They strip you of your individuality. They take away your clothes and your style, and they give you state-issued clothing. So you're dressed just like everyone else. They make carbon copies. So they strip you of your name and give you a number. They strip your individuality and they give you state-issued clothes so everyone looks the same. Then they strip away all of your rights. They tell you what to wear, when to eat, where to go, when to do it, how to do it. They take you away from everything and everyone that you love. Your house, your cars, material possessions, your family, your mother, father, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, children, your woman. They take you away from everyone. I was all alone. As I stated in the first episode, I was not affiliated with a gang, a religion, a neighborhood, so I was definitely on my own and had to hold it down. Now, the second thing I remember when I was on the bus ride is thinking, this is the tour that people kept telling me about. I was fighting my case in court for about 5 months before I actually got locked up. I was speaking to people that had been to jail before or that know people who have been in prison before, and they were telling me they're going to send you on a tour. And I'm like, what's the tour? And it was like, so basically the tour is they're going to send you to a couple of prisons, some county, some state, just like 2 to 3 prisons before you get to the prison that you're going to do the remainder of your time. But to my surprise, my tour was a little different than most people's. So we'll get to that in the later episodes. But I will tell you this. I was in 7 facilities within the first 5 months of my bid. That was my tour. So I finally arrived at Alden. Now, I remember walking through the halls when I first got in there. It really just reminded me of a high school hallway, like a school, the part I was in. So then when they take me to where I'm going to be staying, I can't remember. Like I said, it was a long time ago. I took notes of all of this stuff. I had notes. What happened was I moved a few times between me getting out and now. And in the move, I lost all of my notes. So I'm trying to remember as much as I can. And I had to gather up the few notes that I could. But so now I'm in Alden. I go in and I remember the part I was staying in, I thought I was going to be in a cell or maybe even a pod, which is a little bigger than a cell, but it looked like a school gymnasium. It was like that yellow color and it was that size, maybe a little bigger. And I just remember seeing it, and there were so many bunk beds all around the perimeter of this room. And then there was the CO bubble off to the side. Not quite in the middle, but off to the side a little bit. The CO bubble is a desk and or an office where the COs sit, do their paperwork, and that's where you can find the COs at. There's a TV facing the CO's bubble, a big TV. Then there's another big TV facing the opposite way. There's a doorway for the bathroom, and there's another doorway for the shower. There's no doors, but there's just doorways. So it's like a big gymnasium with 2 doorways, one for the bathroom, one for the shower, the CO bubble. So another detail that I almost left out was there was one more door that led outside to like a little rec area. Now, it didn't qualify to be called as the yard. It was caged in. It was only big enough for a little bit of workout equipment where you could do dips, pull-ups, sit-ups, things of that nature, but it was all caged in. The sides, the top, it had barbed wire all over it. So they let you know you couldn't get away, and they definitely reminded you, no matter how much fun you had on the inside, that you definitely still are in prison. But we did have some great workouts out there, though. It was brick. It was cold as ever, but that didn't deter me. I still had to get it. And then there's like 4 or 5 phones on the wall. So you can just use the phone whenever you want in there, as long as it's not count time or you're not on lockdown or anything. So you can use the phone all day in there as long as you got money on your books. Having open phones in this spot was sweet because, like I said, you could talk on the phone as long as you wanted to, as long as you had money on your books and you respected the honor system, which I like. They already had a system of communication and respect before I got there, to where if you wanted to use the phone, you just ask the person, yo, can I get after you? Can I get next? And they'd be like, yeah. Or they be like, okay, my man got it. And then you ask him, yo, let me get it after you. Cool. On the weekend when people were getting visits and stuff like that, people won't be on the phone as much. Or just some days where families was out working or doing whatever they was doing, people couldn't get through. So you could stay on the phone longer. You could make your call and then let your man make his call. And then after he get off, you get back on, make another call. You know what I'm saying? Then you call somebody else. Then you might let somebody else jump in for a hot second, make their call, then you hop back on. So there were days where you could stay on the phone a lot longer. If I'm not mistaken, you could talk on the phone up to about 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Oh, another thing that really caught my attention too, there was a vending machine in this particular spot too. It's a vending machine. It'll come out of your commissary money and you can get stuff out of the vending machine too, which was super dope. Like, I never saw that before. I didn't know that that was a thing. So that was pretty dope. So one of my favorite purchases out of the vending machine was the big honey buns. And I know them shits ain't good for you, but they taste amazing. You put that joint in the microwave for a couple seconds and chef's kiss. So there was a kiosk in the unit where you can go check your JPay account. So you could check your balance, see how much money you had in your account, and you could check to see if you got emails or pictures from your loved ones. Now that was one of the highlights too, to go to the kiosk, type in your code or whatever, and you see you got mail, you got a letter, you got pictures from your girl or whatever, but they will preview your pictures and they will flag them if they were showing too much skin, or if it was something provocative, or if they thought it had gang signs in it and stuff like that, and then they wouldn't give you those pictures. So sometimes I know I didn't get pictures because somebody had the peace sign up in it and they said it could be gang activity or something like that. But the kiosk was dope. The only thing is there was no privacy. It's just like a regular kiosk on the wall, and you had to stand up, or you could just pull up a plastic chair and, you know, do all your typing and stuff from there. But, you know, in that situation, that was one of the positive things you had to do to keep your mind right and to stay in contact with your family. That was my first impression. I was like, it looks like a big gymnasium. And I noticed there were a whole lot of young men in there. Young men like late teens all the way up to maybe 30, early 30s. And like I said, at the time, I'm 40 years old at the time. I go to my bunk. I'm on the top bunk. There's a chest at the end of the bunk where you could put your stuff at, your food and all those other things, which I didn't have at this point. I didn't have any food, but I had a couple belongings, deodorant and all of that you could put in there. And then you just throw the rest of the stuff on your bunk. And then I started moving around. I'm peeping the scene. I'm watching and listening to everything. I'm talking to people. I'm getting to know a few people. And I start to notice that there was no tension in this spot. Like I said, there were younger guys, and it was like a playful atmosphere. To me, my whole experience there, it was like summer camp. It was really like summer camp, like day camp, which was a good transition for me to ease me into it, because it was, like I said, it didn't feel like prison at this point. It just felt like summer camp. I started having a lot of fun. This was the first time I got my commissary. And so when that commissary hit, you get that pink slip. Oh man, the pink slip, that feeling, it hit different. When you know you got some money, now you can use the phone, you can get stuff on commissary, and you can get stuff out of the vending machine. Psst, come on, man. For those of you that don't know, commissary is a food and supply store in the prison set up for inmates. You can get food or personal items such as gloves, flip-flops, deodorant, batteries. You can get all types of things on commissary. Like I said, it's a general store for inmates. But you have to have money in your account to access it. So fast forward a little bit. At this juncture in my prison stint, I developed a friendship with the guy on the bunk next to me. So we used to exchange books, tell stories about being out in the world with our girls and stuff like that. So he was really cool, but I didn't know anyone from my real life in there yet. So one day I see this guy and I'm like, damn, this young man looks familiar to me. I'm like, where do I know him, or does he look like someone I know? I didn't want to, keep staring at him. I kind of spent off. I did some other things. I look back and I see him looking at me. So I'm like, wait a minute now. First I have to decipher, is this a dangerous look? Like, does he want to smoke with me? Or is he trying to figure out if he knows me? I paid no mind. I look back. We happen to catch each other's eye contact. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, man, I think I do know this dude. So at this point, I just said, fuck it. Let's go see what the deal is. So rewind back some. I used to work at a charter school. And there was a young man who was in the 8th grade at that time. He was really, really tall, and he wasn't, I don't want to say he was bad. He was just busy. He used to give the teachers a hard time and all of that. But I used to talk to him. I used to grab him and be like, yo, man, chill, calm down. And we had a mutual respect for each other. I had a bond with those children because most of the teachers were young white women, about 23, and they couldn't relate to those children. They didn't come from the neighborhood they was from, didn't get the language, our colloquialisms. They didn't know any of that. So I built a rapport with this young man, and I helped keep him out of trouble. I used to tell him all the time, like, you don't want to get in trouble down the line, and that starts snowballing, and then you end up out of control. So at this point, back in prison, I'm like, damn, I was telling this man stay out of trouble and stay out of prison. This gonna look bad if this is him and we both in here. It looks like neither one of us followed my advice. So after we had made eye contact, I saw the look in his face. It wasn't like a tough look, or it wasn't like some beef something. So I went and spoke to him, and it was the young man that I thought it was. His name is Wayne. After that point, we kicked it, man. We started laughing like, dang, you know, what you in here for? What you in here for? And then we did discuss, you know, how I used to give him good advice. And obviously, we both needed to take that advice because we were in jail. From that point forward, that was my guy. Like, we used to hang out, we used to work out together, cook together, and all of that. That was my first time seeing someone in prison that I knew. So being there for a little while, you will see some people go home, or some people will get transferred to a new unit, and then they will bring new guys in. This particular time, they brought someone in, and this is the second time that I saw someone that I know. I saw my man Bryant, Young B, from the 700 block of Northumberland, aka the original sewer. One of my best friend's younger cousin. So I knew him very well. I know his family and all of that. So it was good to see him. B was so funny. He came in and was comic relief for the whole unit. You feel me? He was so funny. On the JPEG kiosk, you could get pictures sent to you, and he used to show us pictures of his girls and his cars and stuff like that. And I had saw the man come up. The last time I had saw him, when we both was in the world, he was doing what he was doing wherever he was doing it at. But he came back to the 700 block, and he had fresh whips and jewels and stuff like that. So I was torn. Like, I was happy for him in a sense because he had came up and he was doing well, but I also knew that he was going down the wrong path. So it didn't really surprise me when I saw him in there, but he got adjusted. I'm telling you, the man was so funny. He was super generous. Like, he would just order stuff on commissary and break bread with whoever was in our circle. So me, Wayne, B, and a couple of other dudes, we had our little circle where we would break bread. We would eat together. We would cook together. We would work out. We would just laugh and crack jokes all day. And then, you know, sometimes I needed some alone time, some private time, so I spin off and go to my bunk, read a book or something, or get on the phone, talk to my family, talk to my children. That's what you have to do to pass the time while you're in prison. Y'all know very well that I'm big on health and fitness, and I've been working out for a long time. So when I was in there, I couldn't wait for the chance to work out. You see people getting it in, and sometimes I didn't even know them people, but they'll be working out, and I just hop in with them and just start doing what they was doing. And then when I got my little squad, what we used to do is we used to take a card deck, and we would assign each kind of card to an exercise. So spades was push-ups, diamonds was sit-ups, clubs was squats, and hearts would be toe raises. So what we would do is flip the card, and whatever the number was and whatever that exercise was, that's what you had to do. I know it's cliche, but I had to get it in. I had to get my swole on. Now let's talk about chow. So in this particular facility, when they yell chow, you will have to go stand by your bed. They will bring the cart in, and then they will set up a little something, and then you just line up. They will start at one end of the bunk beds, and then those two people will get in line, the next people, so on and so forth, all the way around the room. They will start from this end today, and tomorrow they will start from that end. You would just line up and get your tray. That's the only way you knew what was to eat. We didn't have menus. They didn't tell you. They didn't give a shit. Get your chow, and if you liked it, cool, you ate it. Sometimes you would trade it for something else, or give your tray to someone else, and then they can give you something maybe off commissary later. It's the barter system. At the end of the day, all prison food is trash. Certain things you have to eat just to have sustenance, just to have nutrients in your body. As little bit as it provided, you still had to eat. The food was trash, so we relied a lot on commissary food and the vending machine food. So you had to learn how to whip whatever you had. You ate strange things like oodles and noodles with tuna and Doritos and all type of weird things, but it's prison, man. You got to learn how to survive. You have to use what you have to get what you need. Another thing we got to do to kind of break the monotony of the day up and to get out of our unit, we got to go to the library on certain days. Now, I don't recall what day it was, but the days went like the alphabet days in school. You got A, B, C, D, E day in school. It went similar to that. And on certain days, you could go to the library. And I used to enjoy that. You can get on the computers, you can read books. I used to just go there and read and learn something, of course, but it also would just take my mind from, whatever I was stressing about or the fact that I was in prison. The library, it really helped me out a lot. I just did my best to stay busy, cooking, working out, socializing, reading, just anything to occupy my mind, because I didn't want to start missing my family and friends more than I already was. I didn't want to start dwelling on the fact that I couldn't get up and go as I pleased and go outside or go anywhere else besides where I was at. The timeline is a little blurry. I know I got locked up February 12th, and I was in the Buffalo Holding Center for a couple of days to 2 weeks, somewhere around there. And then I went to Alden in the middle of February, and I stayed there until March 21st. I know that for a fact. And I know that because that's my daughter's birthday, and I couldn't wait to call her. And that was the day we got our commissary sheet. You had to fill out to place your order for commissary. All that got interrupted when the CO came and got me and told me to pack it up. I was being transferred. At that point, I was thinking that the tour wasn't so bad, but I had no idea what was ahead of me. Now, I'm not trying to glorify prison in any way, shape, or form, but when I was in Alden, I had a lot of fun, a lot of good times. But I know you guys were expecting a fight or somebody to get cut and all of that. That's later on in my tour. But why would you want that for me anyway? You should want me to be safe. And clearly, I didn't get cut. This is the more serious episode. Serious for a couple of reasons. And because it's a serious episode, I decided to wear this shirt because this shirt represents something serious as well. Now, both this episode and this shirt are things based out of Buffalo. Things that happen in Buffalo. This shirt is courtesy of my man, The Black Abstract. Shout out to you for that. It's Pray for Buffalo shirt. It's about the mass shooting at the Tops on Jefferson in Buffalo, New York, May 14th, 2022. They tell us 9/11, never forget. But we can't forget our own tragedies. So never forget this. The second reason that this episode is very serious and special to me is because it's the time where I almost lost my mind. So I have to preface this part of the story with some information that's going to be pertinent to this episode and the subsequent episodes. So a couple of months before I got locked up, I met this woman and we were dating. She was one of the women that was in the courtroom with me on my last court date. For the sake of these videos, let's just call her Kat. A black cat. I met Kat before I caught my case, so it was extremely difficult to tell her while we were building that I was going to go to prison sooner or later. Now, we hadn't been in a relationship that long, but we really connected and we were building on another level. Eventually, I had to come out and tell her that I was going to prison. I didn't want to be a dirtbag. I wanted to tell her so she could make the choice if she wanted to continue to build with me or move on. Honestly, I was expecting her to opt out of the relationship to protect herself. She could see that I was visibly disturbed breaking this news to her, so she started crying a little bit. But then she started laughing through the tears and said that she would stick by my side no matter what. She asked me how much time was I facing, so I told her 2 to 5, but it's all up to the judge now. She said the time will go fast, and when you get out, we'll look back on that time and laugh. Honestly, that's exactly what I needed to hear at that point. I really wanted to believe her, but I still wasn't sure at this point. She told me she'd write me, visit me, send me packages and the whole 9. And I was just like, we'll see. When they sent me to the Erie County Holding Center and Alden, she tracked me on the internet. She came to visit me a couple times when I was in Alden. She even wrote me, put some money in my JPay. She even had money on her phone account so I could talk to her and my children. And that's significant because none of my children are with her. Now you may ask, why didn't their mothers have money on the phone? Good question. We talked on the phone as much as we could, and so far, Kat was doing exactly what she said she would do. So one day, we were sitting down talking about the situation, and she asked me to stay the same, to not go in there and let that place or those people change me. She wanted me to stay the man that she knew and loved. In that moment, we had decided we should write a book. We would both give accurate and descriptive accounts of our separate perspectives. Her being a woman on the outside, dating a man in prison. and me being my first time in prison, trying to maintain my relationship that I cultivated before I went to jail, while simultaneously fighting my demons and trying to navigate my way through this new crazy environment. So I had to be smart and keep my head on a swivel, and I took notes the whole time. And that's how I got the title, No Justice, Just Us. And those were the notes that I said I lost in the previous episode. Now I got you pretty much caught up on Cat. Now let's get back to the story. Now, as I previously stated, I just got moved from Alden, and I was told that you had to go to Wendy after you left the county and right before you go to state prison. Wendy is classified as a supermax. So I don't remember the ride to Wendy, but I remember vividly what the block that I was on looked like. So let me paint the picture for you. So once you come through the steel doors that only the COs have the key to, it's just one lonely block with maybe about 8 to 10 cells on it. All the cells were on one side, and there's just a wall on the other side with those thick glass windows, you know, with the glass that's like that thick that you can't see through. And up in the corner, right above the door, is one of those big, huge industrial fans. Now, remember that because that's going to be key to the story. The paint was a dull gray. It was dingy, dirty, and cold as It had snowed the whole ride from Alden to Wendy. So now I'm back in a typical 6x9x12 cell with a bed, a toilet, a sink, me, and my thoughts. I didn't know anyone on the bus ride to Wendy, and I didn't have any reading materials such as books or magazines to occupy my mind. I wasn't in the holding center that long. Alden was like day camp, so I had a lot of fun. So now, this was the first time I was actually forced to sit still and face my thoughts. But before I could even get to that point, somebody started cutting up and sent the COs on a rampage. So now I'm just sitting in this cell with no one to talk to and no reading materials. I'm just listening to people converse from cell to cell and visualizing their conversations like I'm watching TV. My mind was just reaching out for things to latch on to avoid those difficult thoughts. I knew at some point, though, that I was going to have that difficult conversation with myself. So while these dudes are talking, somebody sparked up a cigarette and started smoking. Now, the COs had already warned them once about smelling smoke. I don't know if they boofed it or used some other method, but somehow somebody got some cigarettes, matches, or a lighter in there. So this particular day, there was a male and a female CO working. And when they came on the block and smelled that smoke, they flipped out. They started screaming on everybody and was like, if we smell cigarette smoke one more time, I'm throwing cold water on everybody. Obviously, you're not supposed to be smoking in prison. So the CO came and he opened up all the windows on the whole block. Now, mind you, it's March in Buffalo, New York. It's snowing and everything. It's cold as So now I get tight. And it's the first time I actually really say something. And I'm like, yo, I don't know who's smoking, but y'all gotta chill, because they ain't throwing no water on me. And a couple other guys, they concurred with what I was saying. We was like, yo, y'all gotta chill. The majority of people in there smoke, so we couldn't even see who it was. All of that speaks to the power of addiction. Somebody couldn't stop smoking for a couple days or a couple hours just so we wouldn't catch pneumonia and freeze. And them COs, they didn't give a about us. They don't care. So they already had all of the windows open on the whole block in the middle of March when it's snowing. It's freezing in there. It's not like it's well insulated and they have heat anyway. So now that big industrial fan that's over the door in the corner that I told you about, he turns it on high. So all the windows are open, blowing snow and cold air in, and he has the fan on. Now I have on thermals, the top and bottom. Got my socks, my boots, my state greens, which is my pants, and my short sleeve button up green shirt. I have my coat, my Scully, and I'm laying in the bed with my blanket all the way over me, and I'm freezing. So I'm shivering, teeth chattering. This right here is inhumane, but we're in prison. It's not like this is a place filled with people who like to be told what to do or follow rules well. So, of course they smoked again. Now, I don't know if this was the same person that was smoking before or someone new, but you guessed it. Someone sparked up another cigarette, and as promised, the CO splashed them with cold water. Tragic. So the next day, there was a shift change, so there were new COs working on the block. They came in, turned the fan off, and closed all the windows. So there was a guy a couple cells down from me. I never got his name, but for the sake of this video, we're gonna call him Ace. Ace was very vocal, and by that I mean he was talkative, he was very loud, he was always chopping it up with people, and clearly Ace had been in this prison before and through this whole process. I know that because he started telling us what was about to happen. So Ace said, later on today when it's time for rec, they're gonna pop the cells open. And if your cell pops open, you get to go to rec, but you're gonna stay here for a longer period of time before they transition you to the prison where you're gonna do the rest of your time. He said if they don't pop your cell, then that means you're leaving later on that night. They're gonna put you on the bus and transfer you to a new facility. And for me, it was cool that Ace was sharing all this stuff because, as I stated many times, I've never been to prison before. This was my first and last go round, so I needed to know what was ahead of me. Now there was no clocks in there and no way for me to tell time, but I figure it was about 4 o'clock or after. Sure enough, just like Ace said, the cells popped open. So I'm hearing them pop, click, 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 click. They popping open. So I checked my cell to see if it popped open because I wanted to go to rec. My cell didn't pop open. So I'm like, dang, I really wanted to go to rec, but it's cool because that means I'm leaving here tonight and I get to go to where I'm gonna do the rest of my time. Because at this point, I'm super uncomfortable and I wanna move to the next facility to where I can start building a routine and get as comfortable as I possibly can. You should never ever be comfortable in prison, but you can be as comfortable as you can be under those circumstances. So like I said, all the cells popped open, you hear people leaving out, they going to rec. So I'm just sitting in my cell, sitting. And I noticed they didn't pop the cell next to me either. So I spoke to the guy next to me and I know he had a book. So I'm like, yo, bro, when you get finished with that book, can you pass it over and let me read it? I'll pass it back. He was like, no doubt. But I don't know if he never finished reading it. He just didn't trust me or whatever the situation was. He never passed me the book. So I had to sit there the whole time throughout rec, just in my cell board. You have no idea things that you suppress consciously and that still are roaming around in your subconscious mind. When you have time to sit and think because you have nothing else to distract you or nothing else to do, thoughts that are swimming around in your head, it was painful, but I highly suggest you should take time to clear your mind and meditate because the end result is good for you. At that time, it was so much going on in my life. It was so many things and so many people that I was angry with and angry about. And it was all flooding to me. It was just coming to, it was building up. And during that time, I just was thinking and stewing. So like I said, all the cells popped open. You hear people leaving out. They going to rec. So I'm just sitting in my cell, sitting. Later on, you hear them all come back again. They pop the cell, everybody come back in, you hear the COs locking everybody in. So fast forward to later on that night. I'm in my cell laying in my bed, the COs come. Now it's dark outside, it's later at night. I don't know what time it is, but it has to be 7, 8, 9 o'clock. The COs come through and they start handing out these plastic tarp-like bags with a tie at the top. Like Ace had told us before, we knew that if they didn't pop your cell and let you go to rec, that they were going to transfer you to a different facility. So the CO is walking down, he's calling out names, he's passing out these bags so you can pack your belongings to get on the bus. So he passes my cell, he gets to the end of the block because I was towards the end. He didn't give me a bag, he didn't call my name. So I said, excuse me, CO, I didn't get a bag. He asked me what was my name. So I told him and he was like, oh, you're not on the list. But they didn't pop my cell and let me go to rec. And he was like, I don't know, but you're not on the list. Basically, I wasn't being transferred just yet. And I didn't even get to go to rec. You mean to tell me that I didn't get to go outside, get any fresh air, and I'm not being transferred? I have to stay here for more time? So the guys that got those bags, they packed up their stuff. The COs popped the cells, let them out. They cuffed them, shackled them and all of that, loaded them on the bus and got them out of there. I just went to sleep and waited for the next day. So keep in mind, this is the second day that I'm in this prison. I haven't made any phone calls. They didn't let me out to go to the yard. And I thought I was going to be transferred, but I found out now I'm not. And I have to stay here longer. Who knows when I'll be leaving now? So it's day 3 in Wendy. I'm bored. I'm tired of these small portions of disgusting food. I can't work out because it's not enough food to provide enough sustenance for my body, enough fuel for my body. And I haven't been let out to take a shower. Most of the people got transferred, so there's not a lot of people left on the block. There's no more talking. My thoughts are coming to me more frequently, and they went from soft whispers to fucking yelling. The woman I was dating before Kat, She took her own life. And she was also supposed to be my witness in court. The gossip and all the rumors that were going around the barbershop that I was working at before I went to prison. Some people that I didn't know were supposedly looking for me. My brothers and I losing our house. The poor relationship with my oldest brother. What I did to get put in prison. Drastically adjusting to this new portion of my journey. And that's just a few things. There were many more. I was literally in hell and I almost lost my mind. So the only thing I knew to do was to pray. I prayed fervently and asked God to help me keep my sanity. I was this close, paper thin, to losing my mind. Because it was so early in my bed and they moved me around quite a bit and I hadn't touched down to where I was going to do the majority of my time, I only had 3 letters from Kat and 2 pictures. Those were the other things that helped me keep my sanity. I read those letters from Kat at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I looked at those pictures at night to help me hold on, to be strong, not only for myself, but for my loved ones. I had a picture of Kat and my friends from one of my 3 going away parties, and I had a picture of myself and my 3 lovely children. I knew I had to be strong for them, but it damn sure wasn't easy. Painfully and dreadfully, I held on day after day after day. I was in that cell for 7 days straight. They never let me out to shower, to make a phone call, to go to rec, to go to chow. No letters or contact with the outside world or anything else. 7 whole days in that small cell by myself. What would you have done in that situation? I really don't think people enter and understand the damages of people's mental health from a prison stint. The longer you stay in prison, obviously the more damage is done second by second, and you could become callous. But even an overnight stay in prison is too long and could cause significant damage to anyone's psyche. Do you think you would have been strong enough to make it through? So a brief recap, the end of the last episode, I was in Windy Correctional Facility and I had been in there for 7 days straight. So now it's the end of the 7th day and the COs come by and they have those plastic tarp bags and we're going through the process again. I found out that Ace was still there, my man. We go through the daunting and embarrassing process of getting cuffed and shackled yet again. Then they corral us through the prison and out to the bus. Now we get on the bus 2 by 2, shackled at the ankle. So now we're traveling and I can't help thinking, where are we going now? What's my next stop? It's quiet on the bus and we've been traveling for a while. This ride is taxing. I'm so tired. On this bus with little tiny like oval shaped windows, but they're up at the top. You have to stand up to see out of the windows. And then I'm shackled to someone else. It's just super uncomfortable. So I tried to go to sleep, but you're sitting up on these hard benches. I slept a little bit, but not much. The ride was so long, you have to think, this is the longest ride I've taken thus far. On the ride, a couple of people are conversing, and Ace says, yo, we probably gonna go to Elmira because it's a reception prison. He said we would go there, do a week or 2, and then they would ship us to the prison that we were gonna do the rest of our time at. Because he had been there before, he said it was nasty work. So then he proceeded to tell us first-timers what to expect. He told us that after we got processed, COs were going to walk us through a huge hallway with tiers on each side that go really high. He warned us to prepare ourselves because it would be really loud and the inmates would be yelling really foul and obscene things, throwing stuff, and you might see roaches and rats. So I'm sitting back listening like an apt pupil, but in my head, I'm thinking, what the f***? So we had a crazy long ride and we had no sense of time because there's no watches or no clocks. When the bus finally slows down and turns into the parking lot, we all stand up and look out the windows. And sure enough, Ace was right. We pulled into Elmira, or the L as they call it. We pull up, we file in the building, they remove all of the shackles and the cuffs, and they put us in the pen. Now in the pen, there's a TV, which is a treat for me. I haven't seen TV in I don't know how long. It's helping to calm me down and take my mind off of the madness that's going on around me. So now we're just sitting in the pen waiting to be processed. While in the pen, we got to watch a little TV. Most of the time we take these things for granted. You don't really realize how good something is until it's taken away from you. This is what the pen looked like in the L. I try to show actual pictures of the prisons that I'm speaking about, but if I can't find them, I'll use the ones that look the most like it. Now they're stuffing us in this pen like sardines in a can. I'm talking 30, 40 dudes in the pen. And there's guys all outside the pen in various lines to get IDs and essentials and going through processing so they can be sent to their cells. The good thing is the vibe in the pen is actually pretty good. I guess everyone was relaxed and happy to be off of that bus and that uncomfortable bus ride. And we have a TV, so I guess they didn't want to blow that either. But everybody's just chilling, watching TV, and having conversation. So boom, they call my name, let me out the pen. I go hop in the line, go through the various lines, go through the whole process. Then they sit you on a bench with a group of other guys. So they call my group, and we're walking through the halls with our essentials. Yes, Ace is in my group. We come to this big door, and we stop, and we're waiting for the CO to open it. And Ace just turns around and looks at everyone and said, "Get ready." The CO cracks the door, we walk in, and whoa, baby, it gets loud as it's crazy. This is exactly what it looked like. There are tiers and tiers of people on the left and on the right who are yelling obscenities, throwing toilet paper, throwing balled up pieces of paper. People are yelling, "I'm gonna kill you, fresh meat." They yelling all type of wild stuff. The part of the prison we're in now is so much bigger than the little hallways we traveled through. It's so loud and so many people. It's cold. It can be overwhelming, but I remember what Ace said, so I prepared myself. I got the stone face, and I'm just walking through with confidence. Besides, I'm living in the moment. I know that none of these people can really touch me at that moment. You know what I'm saying? And I know I haven't done anything to anyone, which sometimes doesn't really mean anything, but I'm just walking with God knowing that I can't be touched at this moment. So now we're past the point of the initial anxieties of walking through the main hallway of the L with the tier system of cells and all of the inmates yelling and saying all these obscenities and all of that. So we finally get past that. It's amazing how I was able to remain poised and calm, but on the inside, I was like, what the hell is going on? Is prison life really like this? And honestly, I'm a little scared, just a healthy amount of fear. Just enough that's going to keep me on guard to protect myself at all times. So after we come out of the main hall, we make a few turns, and then we pull up to a spot where there's a row of phones. And I'm like, finally, I get to make a phone call. Now, keep in mind, I haven't spoken to Kat or anyone else since they pulled up to get me from Alden. Then I traveled to Wendy, and I was in Wendy for 7 days straight. No phone calls, no letters, no interaction with the outside world. Then we travel here to the L. So the CO calls us up, a couple people at a time, just enough to occupy each phone. So I get up and I'm excited. This is the first time I have contact with the outside world. I want to let my people know I'm all right. And I want to talk to my baby cat. So I'm super excited. I'm dialing the phone. It rings. She picks up. I said, "Hey, baby." And immediately she broke down crying hysterically. She was like, "I couldn't find you. I was so worried. I didn't know what happened." Because when you're in county prison, people can get on the internet and track where you are. Since I got transferred from county to state prison, they don't put that on the internet for safety reasons. They don't want people to try to get the inmates things or even break the inmates out. So they don't post that. I don't know why they didn't have my listing when I was in Wendy, but for whatever reason, she couldn't find me. So for that week, in her mind, I was missing. She had no idea what was going on with me, if I was safe or even alive. So she's crying hysterically. I'm just trying to reassure her that I'm okay. I'm letting her know where I am now, and that from this point forward, she should be able to track me if I get moved again, which we know I will because Elmira is a reception prison. Now, I also want you to keep this part of the story in the forefront of your mind because I haven't spoken to Kat in like a week, and she was crying hysterically. She was worried about me, as she should have been. but keep that in the forefront of your mind because it's going to play a major part in the story later on. So now that Kat knows that I'm all right, we're on the phone, we're just catching up. She's filling me on a few things that's happening on the outside. I filled her in on my portion of the journey and how windy was for me and how terrible it was. We didn't have a lot of time on the phone. We used it wisely. We caught each other up to speed, and now she knows I'm okay. And I'm feeling kind of happy and reinvigorated knowing that I got to speak to my baby. So now, after we get off the phone, I'm thinking, what's next? So they take the group, they line us back up, they corral us into this classroom, and it has desks and stuff like that. They pull in like a TV, plug it in, and they play a video for us. Now, this video is basically a welcome to prison video. It's just getting the inmates acclimated to prison life and also the specific rules of this particular prison that you're in. Now, this is my first time seeing this video because this is the first time I went to state prison. And this video is wild work. Now, it was very informational. It let you know about having your state greens on and that you can only go places when they yell movement and pop your cells open. It also gave you valuable information on things that I was already wondering about, like showering. Yo, I'm not showering naked with no grown ass men. In the county prisons that I was in, all the showers were individual showers. But I knew once you got to state, they were like big rooms and they had shower heads all around. So I was really concerned about that part. In the video, it just said to shower with your underwear on, which is pertinent information. So later on, conversing with other inmates, I learned that it's disrespectful to come to the splash. That's the shower for those who don't know. That's the word they use in prison for the shower. They call it the splash. So it's disrespectful to come to the splash naked. So any man that comes in the shower without drawers on either means he's gay, and that's okay if that's your thing, but in there is dangerous. You can't be around a bunch of straight guys, or it means you're disrespecting everyone in the splash at the time, and you're liable to get your ass beat, maybe even killed. No straight man wants to see another man naked anyway. So keep your drawers on. So another pertinent point that this video touched on was when you're new, you have to watch out for certain things because senior inmates will try to play tricks on you or to bait you into owing them. So one of the things that they spoke about was like when you go to your bed or your bunk, if there's candy on your pillow or on your bed, don't eat it. Don't take it. Don't accept it. Because if you take that, that's someone's gift to you. Now you owe that person. Now, what you owe them is up to that person. You could owe them candy with interest. It's up to them to decide how much interest that is. You might never pay off that interest. Or that means they're courting you because they're interested in having a sexual relation with you. So you don't take the candy. Now, this is also going to play a major role in some of the stories later on when I move to a different prison. Something else you need to take heed to in this situation is going to tell you a lot about yourself if someone puts candy on your bed. If someone puts any gift of any kind on your bed, they think you're food. Food is slang terminology for someone soft, a victim, someone they know that they can extort, or someone they're looking to make their sexual partner. So, like I said, if someone puts any gift of any kind on your bed, you may want to think about how you're moving around. Got to toughen up a little bit, find you a crew to hang with, something. Something has to change because there's a target on your back. You may have to just get it over with and find someone to make an example out of. You may have to find someone who's testing you and them up real bad, period, point blank. Hey, don't shoot the messenger. Those are just the rules in the belly of the beast. After the introduction video, we had to go to medical. So they march us all upstairs, sit us on these hard wooden benches, and we had to wait for hours. So basically in medical, they have to check your hearing, your vision, go through your medical history with you, find out if you have any ailments, diseases, or medical emergencies that they need to know about. Now, this is also going to play a huge part in the rest of my story. And you know exactly why if you saw my video on my top reasons to stay out of prison or not to go back to prison. And if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Medical was long and terrible as usual, but right after that, they took us to our cells. I happened to get a cell on the top tier on the left-hand side when you're walking down the main hallway. Now, I used to know the cell number and, you know, the floor and all of that, but As I previously stated, I lost my notes that I took while I was in there. I had notes because I was writing a book. I lost those notes when I was moving after I got out. So I get to my cell and I'm just looking at it like, this is nasty work. It's cold, it's dirty, it's dingy, there's paint chipping, and there's an old radiator in there, which is my only source of heat. There's a small little window up at the top, but you kind of have to stand on your bed to see out of it. And it looks down at the rec yard. It's like the typical cell that you would think of when you say jail cell. There's just a bed, a sink, a toilet, and some bars. When I'm looking at the bars, I'm looking out and you can see across the hall to the other tiers and down a little bit to like the second or tier. And there's a walkway right in front of your cell where the COs do their laps or the porters come and they deliver things or clean. So then I get to thinking, if I got to take a shit, how am I going to have any privacy? People could just look in at my cell at any time. And I was like, nah, this can't be. And then I peep it. I get the answer right away. So then I get to thinking, I'm like, well, if I got to take a shit, how am I going to have any privacy? People could just look in at my cell at any time. And I was like, nah, this can't be. And then I peep it. I get the answer right away. There's somebody that has their cell covered. So what you do is you take your state blanket, you put it up over the bars, and you take a pair of shoes and you stick one shoe in this end and one shoe in this end through the bars, and it'll hold the blanket up and you can get temporary privacy. But you can't do that too long because the COs will come and tell you to take it down. But if you let them know you're taking a shit, they'll allow it for a short period of time. I was relieved that I finally figured out how I was going to get some privacy when I was washing up or taking a So if you've been paying attention, you never hear me say I'm speaking to anyone throughout this process at this point. So everything I've learned, all of the critical information that I learned at this point was strictly off observation. You have to pay attention to your surroundings. It's imperative.
You see and you don't see. Once you enter these walls, you see, but you don't see.
I'm figuring I'm here. I might as well make it comfortable as I can. So I put my sheets on my bed. I fold up my steak greens and put them on the windowsill. Put my soap on the sink that I got from Essentials. You know, the little things I can do. So now it's getting dark and I'm just sitting on my bed, bored out of my mind. I'm so bored. I start thinking of things that you would never think of on a normal day-to-day basis because we have so many other things to draw our attention or distract us. But at this point, there's nothing there. I'm in a cell by myself. So I started thinking about little things like, what's the first memory that I can remember as a child? I also started thinking about all of my friends that died throughout my life, especially in grade school and high school. And then I start trying to add them up and count how many people that I know transitioned early from our perspective. I was thinking about all of the grade schools I went to and the high schools I went to and everyone that I met on those journeys. I also started thinking about from ages 21 to 23, I rededicated my life to God. I went to church, I got saved, I was super saved. I'm talking no smoking, no drinking, reading the Bible, going to church every day, revival, Sunday school, I'm in the choir, the praise team, the whole nine. You feel me? And then it got me questioning, why is God allowing this to happen to me? Just thinking, and then I started humming a song, which turned into a concert. I started singing every gospel song that I could remember. I don't know all the words to any song, so I'm just singing as much as I can, little snippets here, maybe a hook in a verse, but that's what I had to do to pass the time. I ended up having a gospel concert in my cell by myself. Well, God was there too. I mean, I'm going back to my childhood, the records that my mother used to play when I was a child, all the way up to that time period from 21 to 23, all of the songs I sang in the choir with the praise team, my favorite groups and solo artists. Singing all those songs was very nostalgic, and it also really touched my soul. It had me to the point where I was ready to break down and cry. And even though no one could see me and I could muffle the sound where no one could hear me, I just couldn't allow myself to break down and cry. I literally just started praising God through my circumstance. And then, no lie, no cap, literally, I heard the voice of the Most High say,
You may be in prison right now, don't worry about it all.
And at that point, I had no choice but just to trust and believe that everything was going to be all right, that I was spiritually connected and divinely protected. Right after that, the COs yell count. The count protocol is each inmate has to go to the bars so the COs can come around and count each inmate. Right after that, I knew it was going to be lights out. So I'm thinking I had a long day because I'm so worn out. I'm so tired. And I was ready to get some rest. When it was lights out, that it was going to be quiet. Boy, was I wrong. Absolutely not. Not in the L. All the other facilities I was in, when they yell lights out, they turn the lights out and it gets quiet. Not in the L. The L's so big, they can't control all of these inmates at night. So they yell lights out, they cut the lights out, and boy, it's loud like a stadium. I hear dudes yelling about kites, lighters, food that they're owed, all types of things. Once I realized that it wasn't going to get quiet, I just settled in and listened to the conversation of the guy in the cell next to me. He was hilarious. He was talking to someone about starting a record label called Criminal Records, and you had to have a felony to be on this label. I was just shaking my head, but it was entertaining. It was like TV for me. This guy was a hilarious idiot, and he was entertainment until I finally fell asleep. Lights out. All right, so it's the next day, and this is when I learned I had to stay ready so I wouldn't have to get ready. Because there are no clocks and you have no way of telling time in there, you had to stay ready so when they popped your cell, you could leave. Because this is a high security prison, they don't have free movement. So in lower security prisons, they have free movement, meaning that if you have an appointment with the doctor or your counselor or something of that nature, you can just leave and go when you want. You can go to rec when you feel like going and come back when you feel like coming back. But in high security prisons, it's not like that. They call movement every hour on the hour. And those are the times when you're allotted to go to and from. It's high security, so it's very controlled. The other thing about movement is you have to be tier ready. Now, what that means is when you come out on the tier out of your cell, you have to have your state greens on and they have to be pristine. That means you have to have your shoes tied, your belt buckled, your shirt tucked in, your shirt buttoned all the way up. You didn't have to have the top button, but your shirt had to be buttoned. There's plenty of times when I came out of my cell and I saw people coming out on the tier to get in line for movement, and the CO told them to go back into their cell because their shoes weren't tied, because their shirt wasn't buttoned up all the way, or they were coming out tucking their shirt in. You have to do all that in your cell before you touch the tier. So in some cases, people weren't tier ready. They came out, they were tucking in their shirts, as I said before, out on the tier. CO sent them back. You only have a couple of seconds to hurry up and get right and come back out, or you'll miss that movement and then you won't get to go to wherever you were going. So now I'm tight and right, and I'm just waiting for them to call movement. I grab my net bag. Now your net bag is essential. This is your net bag. And this is my original net bag. So they got a little tag on here. You write your last name on it and your DIN number. It has a little rubber loop thing so you can tie it up and lock it off so things won't come out of the bag. So you put your soap, your drawers, your towel, any essentials in this net bag, and you take it with you when you go in the shower. They finally call movement, pop the cells, and we come out and they let us know that our tier is going to the gym. In the gym, you have two options. You can go in the gym, hoop, and play around in there, or you can shower and shave. Oh, you definitely can't do both. For me, it was a no-brainer. I'm definitely not a hooper, and I haven't showered in over 7 days. The last time I had a shower, I was in Alden. Then they sent me to Wendy. I spent 7 days in Wendy. Then I traveled to the L and spent one night there. So for me, I couldn't wait to get to the shower and I couldn't wait to shave. So my tier files down to the gym, and then we start breaking off into two lines. The lines to go to the shower and the line to go in the gym. Now I'm just peeping the scene, once again, being very observant of the inmates, the COs, and my surroundings. So I go to the bubble, give the CO my prison ID for a razor, because you have to have your ID to check out a razor so they can know how many razors are out and who has them. When they give you the razor, you have 15 minutes exactly to shave, and then you have to return the razor. And then the rest of the time, you can shower. Now, I haven't shaved as long as I haven't showered. So you can imagine I got a small rug on my head. And that's exactly how it felt when I was shaving. I just felt like I was running a razor across a carpet. And that's exactly how it felt when I was shaving. I just felt like I was running a razor across a carpet. It took me the whole 15 minutes to get my head nice and clean the way it looks now. And it wasn't even that good of a job. It got the job done. Even that just made me feel so much better. I felt just more myself. Then I had to go get in the shower. So we go to like this locker room, sit on the bench, you take your stuff off, you put it in your net bag, you throw it in this locker, and then you go into the shower. Like the video said, you have to keep your drawers on. That's wild work. You go in there any other way. We go in the shower, and you got limited time in there as well because you still have to get dressed and get tier ready with your steak greens to go back. You never really know how much you appreciate the little things until they're taken from you. After I shaved and showered, I felt like a new man. It was almost how Christians feel when they get baptized. I was brand spanking new. But now I'm hungry as a hostage. Because I just came to this prison, my commissary didn't transfer, so I don't have any money on my books. I have to rely on whatever they're serving in the chow hall. Prison chow hall food is terrible work, but reception prison food is the worst. So much later, I'm in my cell just sitting in the anticipation. Finally, the CO yells chow and they pop the cells. We go downstairs, we go through a series of tunnels, and we make it to the chow hall. The chow hall is huge. It's a big cafeteria, and there's many picnic table style tables there with a bunch of inmates just shoveling food in their mouth. And then there's tiers and tiers of other inmates up against the wall waiting for a table to get clear and a CO to direct them to go to a table. The reason why I said people are shoveling food in their mouth, they're eating fast because you only have 15 to 20 minutes to eat before they call your tier off of that table to get another tier onto that table. So you have to go through the line, just go down the line. Somebody will give you this, next person to give you slop, next person to give you gruel, next person to give you bullshit. And then you go stand at the table until everyone in your tier gets to the table. Then you sit down, you start eating, and then 15 to 20 minutes later, the CO will yell something and let y'all know chow is done. So you get up, you go dump your tray, and then you go stand back in line up against the wall and get ready to go back to your tier. And of course, the food was disgusting, but it's all I had. After chow, I go back to my cell. Now, in your cell, it's either going to be extremely hot or extremely cold. In this case, it was extremely hot. Now, I'm sweating. Mind you, I don't have any deodorant because that's something you get off commissary. As I said, my commissary money didn't transfer from the last prison yet. I'm like, well, let me wash up. I have 1 bar of soap. That's it. I have to shower with this soap when I can make it to the shower and then wash up with that same soap in my cell. I also use that soap to wash my socks, my t-shirt, and my drawers. Now they have a laundry porter that comes, but number one, this is not laundry day. Number two, I only let them wash my steak greens. I don't like people handling my personals, and you never know if you're going to get the same drawers and t-shirts back, so I just didn't trust it. I also don't trust that they're going to wash it well. So what I would do is wash up in the sink. There's only cold water, and I'm talking frigid water. I'm washing my body up with this 1 bar of soap in the sink, and when I'm done, I have to wash my socks, my underwear, and my t-shirts with the same bar of soap. That's not going to last long, people. So there's a big radiator in my cell. This is the reason why it's so hot. So when I'm done washing my socks, my drawers, and my t-shirts, I have to hang them on this radiator to dry. Now the radiator is on the wall, but it's up high close to the ceiling. So I have to kind of stand on the bed and drape my clothes over this radiator so they can dry. But you have to watch them. You can't leave them there too long because they'll burn and have rust stains or burn stains in your clothes. Because I only had 1 bar of soap, I would catch the porter whenever he was on the tier and try to persuade him to get me another bar of soap. But I didn't know him. I was new to the prison and I didn't have any money or any food to give him for him to bring me a bar of soap. So those efforts fell upon deaf ears. And these are the things that you have to go through when you're in prison. It's nasty work.
Ain't no justice,